Today is Monday, June 30th, 2025. This is First Alert Plus. I'm meteorologist Nicholas Snider here. We are talking, of course, about some interesting weather headed our way this evening with showers and thunderstorms that are working in. In fact, let's pull up the general things that we're talking about this evening. Evening storms are set to work on through the region. We'll give you the latest on what's going on in your neighborhood. Of course, we'll give you that 4th of July preview, and then the heat is set to return to the region. It's going to be very, very hot over the region by the time we head into the weekend. So we're keeping a close eye on that. Of course, let's get right into it. Our water vapor satellite imagery showing quite a bit of active weather over the region right now. And it's showing a lot of moisture just kind of streaming up and into the overall region. And this moisture is coming, of course, courtesy of the Gulf right here, streaming into an area of low pressure that is sitting off to the north and west right here. Now, there was a subtle little boundary today that kind of initiated some of these showers and thunderstorms that we are seeing right now. And this boundary, I'll highlight this for you right here, was indicated right here. It's called an outflow boundary, and that's what kind of popped up these storms that are moving on through. Meanwhile, the actual cold front still well to the west, trailing, and that cold front is set to move on in tomorrow. So we'll zoom on into our radar picture right now. We're seeing storms kind of blossom over near, let's say, the I-64 corridor toward the Moorhead area up into portions of Lewis County, Kentucky, Greenup County, all the way up here into parts of Lawrence and Gallia counties, and eventually up into the Athens County area. Zooming into southern Ohio, really the heaviest storm right now along the Lawrence-Gallia County line right there up toward the Cadmus area. That's moving to the north and east, so Gallipolis, Point Pleasant, you would be next in line for this activity. Nice little light shower along the Mason-Putnam County line right there. As far as West Virginia is concerned, we're looking at northern Calhoun County up into Wirt County, northern Roane County for seeing that activity as well, kind of pushing on through. The rest of the state, at least in our coverage area, looking A-OK and dry with the exception of one little shower out here toward the Richwood area, eastern Nicholas County. The heaviest activity right now in eastern Kentucky, focused over the Moorhead area, and that's pushing off to the east into portions of Carter County. And that's exactly kind of what it's going to do. It's going to continue to move off to the north and east. So those of us in the river cities, those of us in the Huntington area, those of us in the Charleston area, will eventually see this activity moving on in a little bit later this evening. Rainfall, though, no flooding concerns whatsoever this evening. Generally, the heaviest of the rainfall has fallen into southern Ohio right now. That's up toward the Athens area. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Jackson, Portsmouth, over into the Gallipolis area, the Pomeroy area. They've seen the most rain. We're seeing some more rain shower activity back to the west here in eastern Kentucky. Anything that is below that yellow threshold that we see on that color table, signifying that we are really not seeing any sort of flash flood concerns. So not too worried about that this evening, hence no first alert weather day that is in place. Temperatures right now have cooled off just a little bit, though it's still hot in some spots. We're at 90 in Huntington, 87 in Charleston, 81 in Portsmouth. It's still very muggy out there, factoring in that humidity with dew points in the 70s. Wow, an 80-degree dew point in Portsmouth right now. Yeah, it's pretty muggy for sure all around the region, and you factor in, again, all that, you're going to end up getting some pretty hot feels-like temperatures. But the good news is, again, we are below that danger threshold in terms of that excessive heat, the excessive humidity over the area, and we will definitely take that. Now, we're seeing these rain shower and thunderstorm activity over the region, and what could this mean for car washes and, of course, your 4th of July travel? Meteorologist Brandon Butcher has more with his travel forecast and also his car wash forecast.
Thanks a lot, Nicholas. Let's start off with the car wash forecast. You notice today and tomorrow, not really all that conducive because we're talking about those showers and storms, whether it's popping up today or a front that's actually sweeping through tomorrow. Those are the times where you might want to hold off. But don't worry about the 4th of July holiday. When you get out on Wednesday, things will be a lot better going right to the end of the week. So a nice good wax job will get a good mileage going right on into the upcoming weekend. And let's talk about that weekend. If you're a traveler here, we are going to be looking at that map gradually improving here for us locally. You'll see those showers and storms here on Monday evening here become part of a front that'll be passing through as we get to Tuesday. So obviously not too great as you get down toward Myrtle Beach in the southeastern U.S. and going up the East Coast, but this quiet weather right through the middle part of the country, that's what we're going to be able to tap into after we go through this front on Tuesday. So then Wednesday rolls around, and look at the large section of the country that is going to be doing just fine, getting back into that sunshine, and with lower temperatures, the heat wave finally ending. But it doesn't take long to creep back up toward the 90-degree mark. You're going to have another good day on Thursday, and you see those showers starting to appear in the Great Plains states, the old cycle eventually generating those showers and thunderstorms that'll work our way. But not yet. We still get Friday out of it here. Looks like a good way to go through your 4th of July holiday and then on into the weekend as well. But each day that we do so, those temperatures creeping up. So if you're traveling down toward the south and east, really just like us, you only have today and tomorrow to worry about. And after that, looks like you're pretty set. But you have to pack for a lot of that sunshine coming around. And I'm sure there's going to be no complaints.
And speaking of that 4th of July weather, let's talk about it. Of course, it's a very, very important week this week of travel and, of course, a lot of activities that will be going on. So, again, let's go back and talk about the 4th of July forecast here. Of course, we just heard from Brandon right there. Our water vapor satellite, again, this kind of shows us what exactly is going on in our atmosphere and, of course, gives us a lot of the clues as to what's going on in the upper atmosphere. So we have a big ridge of high pressure off in the west. They're very dry right now out there. Meanwhile, we're seeing a little dip in the jet stream over our region. Hence, we're seeing the rain right now, and of course, that moisture return from the Gulf, from the Atlantic, driving all the thunderstorms. That dip is creating an area of low pressure right now overhead. But what this dip is also doing is ushering in some cooler, more comfortable air into the region behind that as high pressure rolls on in. So as we do that, we're going to start to see some better weather moving on in. Of course, we like to look at our upper air patterns. This, of course, is the European model, the standard. This area of low pressure, this area of energy right here, comes through tomorrow. That's the actual cold front itself. So out ahead of that cold front, that's where we're going to see this moisture, this lift for the rain and storms. Again, you notice where that energy is most high, you got spin, diverging air out of that, and that's where you get that upward motion and that rain activity to develop on in. We'll clear this out, and I'll show you what happens toward the middle of the week. We get less and less of this energy rolling through. High pressure is actually going to build in with converging air overhead for Wednesday. Now on Thursday, you may notice this next piece of energy that's right here. I'm watching that closely. Could develop an isolated shower for areas south of I-64. I'm not overly concerned about it, though. It's going to be a light sprinkle, and that's it. We just have such dry air that will be overhead thanks to the high pressure that's rolling on through Wednesday into Thursday. And so it's just an isolated sprinkle chance. No big deal for your Thursday. Meanwhile, as we head into 4th of July itself, look at this. We're looking a lot better. Again, that high pressure's overhead, a lack of energy. Now, if you are traveling to the West Coast, we're watching out here. More rain, likely, at least some wind gusts could be a possibility out here into California, Nevada, up toward the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, and Idaho, places like that. So if you are traveling to the West Coast, some firework displays may be impacted, unfortunately. But for those of us staying east, we should start to get dry, and eventually, you know what this big old ridge means right in here. We all know what this means. Hot conditions will be working back in, and that'll set the stage again for our next heat wave coming on through. And that moves in for Saturday. That ridge directly overhead right there coming in for the day Saturday. And that sets up that heat wave that we've been talking about for next week. And we'll have more on that heat wave coming up in just a second. Here's the American model. And again, there's remarkable agreement here. There's the cold front itself coming on through. And again, we get that diverging air. Below that diverging air, we need to fill the void and grab some rain shower activity. So rain likely for the East Coast Tuesday night. For us, it comes Tuesday mid-morning through really the end of the day right here. And that's what we'll be looking at as far as our next concern for weather, at least in the next 24 hours. But that better weather moves in for Wednesday into Thursday. Again, we're watching that little piece of energy for the potential of a sprinkle on Thursday. No big deal there. Friday should be dry, and then that heat builds in for the day on Saturday. Timing out the showers and storms, like I mentioned earlier here, will show us, again, mid-morning tomorrow is when we start to see this activity. Here's this evening, again, things winding down thanks to the lack of energy. But tomorrow we get this energy rolling on through, and here's those showers and storms that I mentioned for a lot of the region, including the river cities, including places like Huntington, Hurricane Winfield, Tays Valley, Charleston, up the I-77 corridor to Ripley, down into the coal fields as well. Everyone has a good shot at seeing some rain and thunder tomorrow. Good news is there's not enough wind high up in the sky, nor there is enough energy tomorrow for any severe weather. So we will definitely take that. But we're keeping a close eye on it. Some pretty heavy downpours could be a possibility. It is still very humid after all. But overall, no severe thunderstorms, no flooding expected. And then finally, the drier conditions work in for Tuesday night into Wednesday, and we look absolutely fantastic as we head into really the middle of the week here. Let's talk about it. Again, that high pressure works on in behind this cold front, brings in the comfortable weather. And there we go, the hot conditions further to the west on Wednesday that we are going to have to watch a little bit before things really kind of get going as far as that heat wave is concerned. But in the meantime, we're looking at very, very comfortable conditions over the region. I want to bring in Chief Meteorologist Tony Cavalier because we have quite a big event that's happening on Friday over in Ripley, West Virginia. And Tony, of course, is the events guru around here. He knows everything that's going on, and he's going to preview what's going on at Ripley. So first of all, thank you for joining me, Tony.
Nicholas, great job here. Flawless. I can say this, folks, this is live. This is not on tape. This is a first taker for sure.
I really appreciate it, Tony. Thank you. So you've been to, how many times have you been over to that Ripley parade, first and foremost?
I get to Ripley every other year. So for the last 25 years, I've been there a dozen times. This year, it looks like I'm working the 4 o'clock here, which means I'll probably wind up either at Gallipolis or Hamlin, closer by, because I've got other duties. But Ripley is, in our area, the premier parade for 4th of July. The number of people, the townspeople have this tremendous love for our country, our state, our county, their city, and it is, I'll tell you how good the parade is. Back in 2002, we're talking about the first year, the first 4th of July after Independence Day, the first 4th of July, to say, after 9/11, George W. Bush came to Ripley to celebrate America. And so it's my favorite story to shoot because they've got a phenomenal band. The marching Vikings from Ripley High are renowned across the state. And they will play a medley of patriotic songs all along. It's a 2-mile trip. This is not a short parade. It starts out near the high school and ends out on I-77. And they're phenomenal. The Tabernacle Church will have a unique float that is out of this world, could win an award at any parade in the country. The one year they kind of had a presentation of the sands of Iwo Jima. The last time I was there 2 years ago, they had a representation of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So the patriotic pride it's big in all our towns locally. Okay, let me tell you, Ripley is someplace special to be on Independence Day.
And some of the weather that you've covered there in the past, do you have any memorable things that have happened as far as the weather's concerned just over the past many years that you've gone over there?
Always hot, it seems. And if it's not hot, it has rained in the morning, as it did last year. A brief shower and a thunder shower came past. But the place to be is Courthouse Square. You've got the beautiful oak trees that are hundreds of years old that basically give a lot of shade. It's right near the Alpine Theater. And I can see that Alpine and that stretch, just how beautifully it's decorated. Folks have a lot of civic pride in Ripley. And so that's the place to be, to get away from the downtown heat. The downtown heat, again, we start near Ripley, near the high school, and for the first mile of the parade, it's all wide open. And so what you're going to see is a lot of Jackson Countyans, Ripleyans, and friends that are out in the heat, because they'll be at the courthouse square. They'll be there 10 and 15 deep because of the shade of the trees and the beauty of the downtown.
And the great thing about this year is that we're not expecting a whole lot of humidity, so that shade should feel quite a bit better as opposed to if we did have that humidity overhead.
A little incidental, not on Ripley, but when President Clinton began his nationwide tour for a re-election, he started in Huntington. It was an 85-degree day with low humidity, and people were passing out left and right because they weren't allowed to move because of the Secret Service. I'm just saying that even an 85-degree day and any parade, whether it's Ripley, Hamlin, Gallipolis, wherever, is a hot day. It's just that our standard now is way up, heat index over 100. And but folks they come out by the hundreds, by the thousands. And on the Mill Creek Bridge, the Casto family will be there. They've been doing this the parade goes back to the 1800s. And Mrs. Casto, she is the patriarch of the parade in uptown. She's been there for many of these years. She's probably pushing 90 years old. And I guarantee, if her health allows, she'll be on the Mill Creek Bridge as the parade comes through.
And what are some of the other things other than the parade that's going on? Because it's a huge 4th of July celebration over there.
Well, you got to get to the Mountain State Art and Craft Fair. They're coincident. This is one of the best art and craft fairs in the eastern United States. And there the history has been 100-degree heat. So that's an absolute must-see. And the bands, I mentioned the Ripley Band, the Ravenswood Band, the Red Devil Band's excellent. I think the last time I was there, the Air National Guard had a band from West Virginia, and from Fort Indian Gap in Pennsylvania, a band came down that had a patriotic, a military flair about it. So parades have to have great marching bands. This one has great ones, whether it be high school bands or military bands. And there'll be all sorts of patriotic youth, civic, and church floats that just make this a very special place. There's a reason George Bush came here in 2002. Yes, it's a highly Republican county, don't get me wrong, but it's one of the most patriotic celebrations you can ever go to. And I love going there every other year, and unfortunately this won't be a year. But I will have a good time whether I go to Gallipolis or Hamlin, guaranteed.
And you mentioned, too, people come by the thousands. What are some of the things you can do to maybe protect yourself? Because it's going to be a 90-degree day. Even though there's not going to be humidity, that's still a little hot out there. And, of course, you mentioned even in 85 degrees people were passing out, too. So what do you recommend people do to stay safe from the heat if they do get overheated, even though it may not be an excessively hot day?
Common sense. But you know what? They've got the town doctor that rides a bike all the way through the parade and back, making sure that folks are hydrated and attending to anybody who has a little heat problem. So listen to the doctor in town when he comes driving by, and they know that. And he's one of the unique features of the parade, where I can't tell you the civic pride that all towns have, Hamlin, Gallipolis, but in Ripley, something special is going on Independence Day. And actually, it was on Monday evening that the carnival ride started. Most small town celebrations start on the day before. Hamlin, or I should say, Ripley has it all week long. The carnival rides, then there's all sorts of music leading up to, of course, the big Independence Day celebration. And of course, it will end with a rockets, red glare, bombs bursting in air, fireworks display. And
that fireworks display should be A-okay because it will be dry. But unfortunately, starting off the week's festivities a little wet for them. So hopefully people can enjoy it a little bit later this week. Tony, thanks for stopping by on the show.
Nicholas, great job on Weather Plus. Nicholas Snider, one of the best up-and-coming meteorologists in the country. And we're fortunate to have him here at WSAZ. Thanks for doing this, Weather Plus.
Well, thank you, Tony. I appreciate you being on here. All right, we're going to get to meteorologist Hannah Hayes, who has a look at her forecast for tomorrow, plus a preview of that Ripley parade. Hannah?
Thanks a lot, Nicholas. Let's start off with the car wash forecast. You notice today.
Thank you so much, Nick. And as for tomorrow, we are going to be seeing those temperatures into the 80s once again with scattered showers and thunderstorms throughout the day. So for southern Ohio, temperatures be in the mid 80s as we go throughout the day. About the same over in eastern Kentucky. Just remember to have that rain gear with you because we are expecting those scattered showers and thunderstorms as we go throughout the day tomorrow. At some point, you might just need that umbrella. As for southern West Virginia, still into the mid 80s as we go throughout the day. And we are going to be seeing those temperatures pretty warm this week overall, and I know a lot of people are planning out for the 4th of July already. Of course, we do have a parade in Ripley on Friday for the 4th of July. Forecast looking good for that. Temperatures will be into the 80s right around parade time with partly cloudy skies expected for that parade. So any plans for the 4th of July, you are looking good to go.
Thank you, Hannah, for that, of course. Looking good for 4th of July, but unfortunately, again, we will have to deal with at least a little bit of rain for your day tomorrow before things kind of get better later this week. All right, now the moment everybody's been waiting for. We have to talk about, of course, what's headed our way in terms of that heat. And let me tell you, folks, another heat wave is on the way. Of course, we're in that cooler pattern right now. You can see that right here. I will annotate this for you if I can. Here we go. We're in this cooler pattern right now. We're in this yellow zone right here, showing, of course, the cooler, slightly cooler, all that, conditions overhead, meaning we're only into the 80s. And especially once we head into, let's say, Wednesday, Thursday, things will get a whole lot better. And I'll take that circle off for you, and I'll show you what happens. Of course, we touched on this earlier when previewing 4th of July, but I want you to notice something. All that cooler air gets bottled back up into much of the Arctic. This is what we call a positive Arctic oscillation right in here. All that cold air is bottled up to the north right here. And so where does that heat go? It just filters into the country in the lower 48 once we head into next week. And that's what we're going to be dealing with, unfortunately, with our pattern. Yet another heat wave will be headed our way as we go into next week. Let's take a look at this closer. Again, that positive Arctic oscillation is what's going to bring this heat back in. It comes as soon as this weekend. Notice the color change from the yellows back here. In fact, I'll reverse this for you. The yellows back here Wednesday and Thursday to the reds here that we're seeing on Saturday. And again, that's the entire country that you're seeing in just this big old dome of heat. And it's likely that we're going to have to call more first alert weather days as we head into next week because of that. The humidity is going to increase as well, and so those feels like temperatures are going to be back up there, and it's something we're going to have to keep a very close eye on. And remember to stay hydrated, find a way to cool yourself down in the air conditioning, go to a pool, go to, let's say, a splash pad, anything to cool yourself down, and staying hydrated is also very, very important. Next 6 to 10 days from the Climate Prediction Center showing this, we are going to be in a hot pattern. Now, again, before this, it's comfortable. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, not too bad, but it's beyond Friday where this heat just really gets oppressive over the region, and it's something we are going to, again, keep a close eye on. This deep red means we have a very, very good shot at seeing very above normal temperatures and excessive heat going into next week. As far as precipitation is concerned, still above average. We are going to have the opportunity for some storms kind of riding along that heat dome right there. We call that the Ring of Fire. It's a derecho producer, so we'll have to see about that. But the most important thing is we're not in a drought situation. We're having enough in terms of the drought activity where we are going to be seeing enough precipitation, enough in the way of moisture, I should say, for lack of drought activity overhead. So not a whole lot of drought situations overhead, which is good because we don't want another situation like last year where we had a really, really severe drought moving in. All right, Super 7-Day time. We are going to talk about, of course, the events happening this weekend and beyond this weekend as well. Of course, we start with 4th of July. I want you to first notice how nice the weather is going to be as we head into the middle of the week. Wednesday, 86 degrees. That looks very, very nice. Thursday, much of the same weather here. 88 degrees. That slight chance of a sprinkle is there, like I mentioned earlier. But overall, it shouldn't be too bad. And then 4th of July, sparkler forecast for the evening looks A-OK. In fact, spectacular. We're in the 80s. We're staying dry and we're staying clear. So that sparkler forecast looking A-OK for much of the region. Saturday, we still got more events, happening beyond, of course, the Ripley Parade. We got Summer Motion in Ashland. Let's talk about that. Should be good. You're hot, though. Again, you're going to want to stay hydrated. You're going to want to find a way to stay cool. We're only getting into the low 80s by 9 p.m., so keep that in mind. Another thing we've got going on this weekend, the Stern Wheel Regatta. And again, much of the same weather can be expected. We start in the 90s here. We fall back down into the 80s. So not going to be the coolest of weather overhead for both the regatta and, of course, for Summer Motion going on in Ashland. Friday is the pick day to be off and about. That's the name of the game here. So perfect timing for that 4th of July. Of course, this is First Alert Plus. We now air every Monday, 6:30 p.m., give you the latest technical information on what's going on with the weather. We talk about events. We give you information on what's going on tomorrow and that first alert for any weather that could be impactful to you and your family. Stay up to date. Follow us on Facebook, all of us. Meteorologist Nicholas Snider for me, Brandon Butcher for Brandon, Tony Cavalier for Tony, and, of course, meteorologist Hannah Hayes for Hannah. This show airs on our WSAZ app every Monday, 6:30 p.m., and all the WSAZ digital platforms, whether it be on Roku, whether it be on the app itself, whether it even be on the WSAZ website, WSAZ.com. In the meantime, make it a great Tuesday and have a fantastic day, everybody. Make it a great Monday as well.